I am young. I am 20 years old. Yet I know nothing of life but despair, death, fear, and fatuous superficiality cast over an abyss of sorrow. To forget is the secret of eternal youth. One grows old only through memory. There's much to little forgetting. We are forlorn like children, and experienced like old men. We are crude and sorrowful and superficial. I believe we are lost. I want to live and feel all the shades, tones, and variations of mental and physical experience possible in life. A man does not fight only to win. I can improve my life in only one way: by doing my best in the conditions in which I find myself. Youth cannot know how it thinks and feels. But old men are guilty if they forget what it was to be young. I am very quiet. Let the months and years come. They can take nothing from me. They can take nothing more. I am so alone, and so without hope that I can confront them without fear. Innocence is a kind of insanity. It's only terrible to have nothing to wait for. The first bomb, the first explosion, burst in our hearts. We are cut off from activity, from striving, from progress. We believe in such things no longer. We believe in the war. It is very queer that the unhappiness of the world is so often brought on by small men. I imagined that it was possible to remain calm when the end came. But it is not so. We shriek even if it is only a rat that crosses the floor. I want you to know I'm alive. The world has a great writer in Erich Maria Remarque. He's a craftsman of unquestionably first rank, a man who can bend language to his will. Whether he writes of men or of inanimate nature, his touch is sensitive, firm, and sure. Death is not difficult. It simply requires tranquility. Even now, there is little I remember: the smell of a river, the line of the hills, the colors of the morning. Elizabeth's hair in the sunlight, those moments when my life seemed to condense, as if all the years were but an eddy in the great stream of infinity, tugging us inexorably on. I am alive and I want to live. We are not youth any longer. We don't want to take the world by storm. We are fleeing. We fly from ourselves, from our life. We were 18 and had begun to love life and the world, and we had to shoot it to pieces. When we were 18 and we belonged to ourselves, everything was alive with promise. I am no longer a shuddering speck of existence. Alone in the darkness, I belong to them and they to me. We all share the same fear and the same life. We are nearer than lovers, in a simpler, a harder way. I could bury my face in them, in these voices, these words that have saved me and will stand be. I am too alone in the world, and not alone enough to make every moment holy. To forget is the secret of eternal youth. One grows old only through memory. Nothing is harder to bear than the injustice of being made the sole focus of the law's fury. It is as if one stood on a narrow point at the very edge of an abyss and the whole world lay behind. And below, we are mad, not only individuals but nations as well. We restrain manslaughter and isolated murders. But what of war and the so-called justice of slaughtering whole peoples? I believe that this generation does not dream of a future. It has lost the ability to dream of a future. The future that is no more than an empty space in which men might not be. I have loved this earth and the animals, even the animals, and everything on it. I have loved it with all that is in me. We were 18 and had begun to love life and the world, and we had to shoot it to pieces. We have learned that the destiny of man is not controlled by a few directors, but that it is in the hands of all men. That it cannot be achieved by a few supermen, but only by the work and the will of all men. The sorrows of youth are due, in part, to our realizing that we are not going to be able to escape ourselves as we had once hoped. All I know is that I do not feel at home in this world. Strange to say, life's meaning has become clearer to me since I severed my connection with the living. It's strange that you never realize how much you like a man until you have to leave him. Only the dead have seen the end of war. At the threshold of life, by the gate of the dead, was a man who would die in a few minutes. Let the months and years come. They can take nothing from me. They can take nothing more. I am so alone, and so without hope that I can confront them without fear. We are all brothers and share the same history and the same fate. The same suffering calls out to us, and the same joys beckon. We were not aware of it, but we were allies of the time that condemns the victors as well as the vanquished, of the common man as well as of the great man, of justice and of injustice. To love life and men as it is, and not to make it worse that is to love. The fate of an entire generation was determined by the events of a few days. Mankind has learned only that it is important to live, and that one must endure suffering for it. One has no right to eliminate existence. We are not youth any longer. We don't want to take the world by storm. We are fleeing. We fly from ourselves, from our life. We were 18 and had begun to love life and the world, and we had to shoot it to pieces. At the sound of the first bombs, my father had blown his nose, and they had all laughed. The war has ruined us for everything. The war went on, and every year took men's lives and laid them in the wet ground. Man is a very simple being with very complex ideas. He is easy to understand, and it is easy to understand him. If one will only understand the first thing about him, the world in which he lives. Our heads swim with the thoughts of people who move us. The great events of the world, ideas that have changed the face of nations, eternities that set our minds awhirl. Man is so simple and so complex that he himself has lost sight of it. Life is just life after all, full of contradictions and illusions. What do they expect us to talk about? War. That's man's great adventure, but we cannot possibly feel the same about it that they do. Life is so simple and so complicated, and one can do nothing about it. We have become wild animals. We do not fight. We defend ourselves against annihilation. If people want to slaughter us, let them slaughter us. If we are extinguished, the world with us will be extinguished.